Good day, everybody. Welcome to Canadian music in the 80s and 90s and more. Yeah, that's what keeps it Canadian. Hope you like what you see. If you do, please say you like it and subscribe if you will. Um, I'm very honored to be joined by what I consider a legendary Canadian band, the Kings. Um, Mr. Zero and
David
sorry,
Diamond. David
and
Diamond,
Dave
that's
Diamond.
me. Yes.
Pleasure to see you guys. How are you guys been?
Been keeping well,
Yeah,
actually.
man, we're
Yes.
doing good.
Been fairly busy lately. It's great.
Yeah, I got a note about that from a guy named Eric Alper telling me about you guys have got a hit on your hands again with Nowhere to Go But Gone. Great
Well,
video, great song.
thank you. I don't know if we'd call it a hit, but it's getting some play in the U.S. and some in Canada too. But the landscape is certainly different now regarding getting airplay and what it means.
Right.
A lot of the bigger stations don't add, new songs. Even if you're Brian Adams or Paul McCartney or somebody, they'll put out a new song and they'll get one spin and then it disappears and they'll start playing Summer of '69 and
Yeah.
Or at the
Switching the glide.
Stones.
Switching the glide. Yeah.
Switching the glide.
they'll play
Yeah.
that again. Yeah. Well, thank God they still play Switch and Glide because they do,
Yeah.
and they play it all over the place, and so we're very lucky to have that legacy type of thing.
But it's not like you guys have been sitting around doing nothing all these years between those two songs.
No, we've been together putting out
Yeah.
like new records and playing gigs and all that, and we've been lucky lately because our original keyboard player Sonny came back to play with us live these days because his kids are grown now, and so he's got time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because that's something I like to point out on my channel about some of the people I interview is that they haven't been just sitting around since the 80s doing nothing. They still keep making music. They're still out there doing what they do. And I think it's great.
Yeah, well, we're lucky also because Sonny's back with us. To compare ourselves to some of the bands that are out there that have no
nobody left.
original members. We have
Yeah.
3 out of 4, and our drummer Todd Reynolds has been with us since '07, and so he's been in the band
The original drummer.
longer than Ringo.
Yeah.
That's right, too.
Yeah, I was talking to Honeymoon Suite not long ago, and they have 4 of the 5 original members still in their band, and their keyboard player has been there longer than their original keyboard player.
Right, and their keyboard player was with us.
We had
Peter Dunn was with us since
94.
'94
Yeah.
till just recently when Sonny came back on board. So he was with us over 20 years or more. And I just talked to his wife today, who she plays keyboards, and she subbed in with us when Peter was busy before Sonny came back. So
Yeah.
we're all family with some of these people, and it's great. Peter and Christina are wonderful people, and we're lucky to have had them available because they're both great.
But we have had many drummers. We've had probably, I don't know, 20 drummers over all the years, different guys. Some were great, some were okay, but it got us through. And then I don't know how many keyboard players we had too.
Not as many because they're harder to find. We had
Yeah.
an alcoholic we called Johnny Keys.
All keys.
We called
And
him. His real name was Johnny Keys, but we called him Al Keys. Al Key.
that's clever. Hey, if you're gonna do names, you got to be clever about it, right?
Every beer store we drove by, is that one open? Is that still open?
I
um,
mean,
but yeah,
we like to have a beer, but when you've been around somebody who really depends on it, it's a big difference.
oh, I would imagine it is. Yeah.
It's sad to see.
Well, we're a bunch of sober boys now, I'll tell you. When we get up on stage, we're as clean as a whistle. It's pretty
Well,
good stuff.
like again, like I was mentioning, you guys have never stopped playing really because I've seen you at festivals. I've seen you at the Kerr Street Festival in Oakville. And Oakville is your hometown, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
where we were both from. I live in Burlington now, which is just the next little town west of Oakville, and Oakville is just west of Toronto. So we're in the GTHA, Greater
Yeah.
Toronto Hamilton area. Yep.
No, but you guys have never stopped playing. Like you've always been playing. But
Yeah.
do you mind if I go back and ask you about the origins of the Kings? Like when did you guys first like kind of get together and start playing
Sure.
music?
Sure, yeah, no. He's the instigator right here, this guy.
I always, wanted to be a songwriter. I didn't know if I could do it, but I thought I might be able to collaborate with somebody. And so I lived in England for a while, and I lived in Vancouver, and that's where I met Sonny Keys, our original keyboard player. And him and I started working on some songs, and we did some demos and that, and we decided, it's not too bad. And then I had seen Dave play around Oakville, and he was like the most talented guy in town. And I played in a band with our original drummer, Max, who also, bands are kind of interchangeable back in those days. And so
Right.
David played with Max, and I had played with Max, but I hadn't played with Dave. So
Yeah.
we approached him with our little tape, and he said, "Yeah, I'll come and sing and play bass with you guys." And so that's what started it. And then when we were in our first session, he brought in a couple songs, and they were really good. So that kind of led to me and him collaborating down the road more, and that's what led to Switching to Glide a few years later.
And
Yeah,
that's like
the
that's
early stuff that Zero and Sonny were working on, it was more Elton Johnny vibe type of a thing. And I think Z wanted to rock out a little more. I know I'm a rock and roller from the old days, so I brought some rock songs in, and
Yeah.
that sort of flipped it over into a different direction. And we've been cranking it out ever since. It's great.
but I mean it's amazing to have a song like Switching the Clyde and this beat goes on the way it has. I mean it still gets played a lot today. Um so what's it like to have at least have that in your back pocket because it's a legendary song. Everybody knows it.
Well, it got us into the reason we were at Massey Hall last Saturday was it was the induction of Tom Cochran and Blue Rodeo and
Sarah McLachlan,
Sarah
Yeah.
McLachlan and
Diane Tell.
Diane Tell
Yeah.
from Quebec
Hmm.
into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame. They got in with their whole catalog as overall artists, where we were lucky enough to get into the Songwriters Hall of Fame because of This Beat Goes On and Switching the Glide a few years ago during COVID. So it means we get free tickets to the gala they have at Massey Hall every couple years, and Dave was sitting beside Sylvia Tyson,
Yes.
the legendary from Ian and Sylvia,
Lucky
Right.
me. It was great.
and she's very nice. And Lorraine Segato from Parachute Club was sitting right over here in front of us, and Mark Jordan was sitting right there, and Bob Ezrin was 2 rows in front of us, and
So there was a few celebrities there.
Oh
That's
yeah,
for sure.
it was pretty cool. Had a chance to talk with Ron McLean for a bit too. He's always been a Kings fan.
Yeah.
He lives in Oakville,
Yeah.
and so it was nice to see some of these people. We don't really know Tom Cochran that well. I mean, we know him to say hi to at a gig like we did last summer or whatever. And the Blue Rodeo guys, I've met their guitar player Colin Cripps a couple times. I've met Jim, but I don't. They know who we are through Switching to Glide because everybody knows that thing.
And Basil, the bass player.
Basil's a friend.
Yeah.
And he's an original guy from Blue Rodeo, and he's a great, very friendly guy.
Well, it's true. Everybody knows Switching the Glide.
Oh, yeah.
It's, it's quite an animal, that thing, boy. It just is going on and on. That's
It's got
for
a life
sure.
of its own, and we're very grateful for it.
What was it like to run into Bob Ezrin again? Because he produced that, didn't he?
Yeah, he was the producer. Z was talking to, but he sort of knew it was good right off. The original version of it wasn't quite the same as it is now, and he steered us in the right direction as far as a few chord progressions and lyrics. But we already had the song written as two parts with the segue, with the glide in the middle, and we had that already together. It was just a few things we needed to patch up a little bit in the This Beat Goes On part of the song. And but I think he knew what we had, and he went and got us a deal with Elektra Records in California, and that was great. Who can ask for more? It's a Cinderella story, really.
Yeah, and we seen him the other night. You know, we've had our ups and downs with Bob, to, you know, put it mildly, I guess. But, you know, hopefully we've got over some of that. And I wanted to say to him, which I was able to the other night, to say thanks for changing our lives, basically. And I shook his hand, and you know, it was a good moment,
Yeah.
because he really did. He didn't have to do what he did.
Right.
He recognized something in us, and for a guy like that to go out on a limb with an unknown band from Toronto,
Right.
when he just finished Pink Floyd's, you know, arguably biggest or second biggest record, I guess, after Dark Side.
Did the Wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have got any band in the world, and I'm sure they were all trying to get him, but he went with us.
Yeah.
And he worked us hard to get up to his level of studio ability, which we were just talking about a couple minutes ago,
Right.
about what it's like to be in the studio. And it's a difficult place to be, to try to be good. And I mentioned to him the other day about, you know, drummers, because if you know the studio, you know that the drumming is like the most difficult thing. Everybody, oh, drums, just play the drums, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it's the hardest thing to get down right.
Yeah.
And, you know, he had told us what it was like working with Peter Criss and Kiss, and I think Nick Mason and Pink Floyd. And he, they're arguably not very good drummers, and our drummer was arguably not a very good drummer either. So, but he worked, like he said the other night. Well, we worked with him and we got him up to snuff, and it worked out great. And he was right.
Yeah.
But it was because of his knowledge and diligence, I think, that he was able to do that. You know,
Yeah.
and.
At one point, we were working on we weren't very tight, Max and I, the bass and drums. And we were rehearsing, and we were going over and over and over parts. And this one day, he says to us, to Max and I, "You guys drill this, you get it right, drill it. Let's go for lunch, guys." And the whole rest, they all went for lunch and left Max and I there. And we knew we had to, when they came back, we better have this thing nailed, you know, and we did. So, but it was just funny. Okay, see ya, we're out of here. You guys work, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of guys I've interviewed lately have had stories about Bob Ezrin too. Like I've talked to Blair Packham from the Jitters a few times, and he got to work with Bob Ezrin. And you know, when you find out that he did work on The Wall with Pink Floyd, all those Alice Cooper records, and David Bowie for that matter, like yeah, he really is a legendary producer. And to work with someone like that must be just crazy to have that, you know, on one of your
Well,
records.
it is, and well, he did 2 albums with us, and then we approached him a few years ago when we started our new project, which is an album called The Longest Story Ever Told.
And on
Yep.
vinyl, too. Vinyl and CDs available right here at
That's
thekidsarhere.com.
right. We have a
Yep.
garage sale at Dave's driveway every week.
I'll have all that
But he-
information in the description of the video when I post it.
But-
So.
Yeah.
But he mixed the first song on the second side. It's another sort of it's a segue, but the Circle of Friends, Man That I Am. We went down to Nashville and to do the final mix with him, and we got along great. He did a great job.
Yeah, it was kind of the template for the rest of the album. We said we had 7 different mixers, including Bob and the other 6 guys. We said, make it sound as good as this.
And he is only Bob is.
And so that was kind of because Bob he's good, you know. That's all you can say about him. He's good at it. And, you know, just see him the other night. I mean, he's just another guy in the crowd, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
And
people
you-
know who he is, but most don't.
And you did some work. You had Garth Richardson work on some of your stuff too,
He
didn't you?
did. He did. Actually, the new single, "Nowhere to Go But Gone," is
Yep.
Garth mixed that, and of course he's like he likes his heavy songs, so it was it fit him like a glove compared to some of the other songs on this new album, which are some are poppy and some are sort of like
Yeah. Ballads here
Yeah.
and country kind of thing. But we've known Garth for a few years now, and of course we knew his dad a little bit,
Right.
Jack from back in the day, and Jack was one of the reasons that we decided to record our little indie album at Nimbus in Toronto, Nimbus 9, and because Jack had worked there with the Guess Who and Bob had worked there with Alice Cooper, and we managed to get some dough together, and we were doing our little indie album at night at one of the best studios in the city, and
The Graveyard Shift. We
Yeah.
got in cheaper than. But we recorded the whole first album ourselves, like the original, the Kings Are Here album, without Bob. And then Bob happened to come in to visit old friends, and that at the time Bob was living in Toronto. I think he is now still.
oh yeah,
But he came to visit the studio late one night to see what was going on, and who was in the studio working was the old King guys here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he caught wind of the song "This Beat Goes On," switching the glide, and it made him. He was interested. He took a copy. We let him take a copy home to have a better listen to it, and he said the kids liked it, the wife liked it, so let's do something. So that's basically how it all started with Bob, and
Yeah, so
it was just a matter perfect timing for us to be there and him to walk in the door, and we hooked up.
But we had the goods, and that is the main thing. Because it's funny, the other night at this thing at Massey Hall, and we're not going to name names, but good is good, okay? And some things weren't that good. And, we're looking at each other and we're going, this is not good.
You don't want to say it.
We're not going to say who was good and who wasn't. I mean, Sarah McLachlan was fantastic. Tom Cochran was great. Blue Rodeo was great. But they have sometimes other people perform their songs, like
Right.
while they're sitting in the front row watching.
Yeah.
And so it's a tribute. Sam Roberts was great.
There was a bunch of good stuff.
There was a lot of good, but
there was some clunkers
there
already.
was a couple things that weren't exactly good.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen there's a video of Jose Feliciano singing a song, one of Sting's songs in front of him.
Oh,
I don't know if you've ever seen that video, and he's just,
Wow.
I hate to say it, but he was just butchering the song like crazy.
Oh.
And you could see the look on Sting's face. He was trying to be as polite as he could because he knew cameras were on him.
Yeah.
And it was just,
That's good.
That's like the Kennedy Center honors when they do that.
I think that's what it was actually. It was Kennedy
Oh,
Center
that might have
honors.
been that, right.
Yeah, it's quite funny looking at Sting trying not to be disgusted looking because it was pretty bad.
You'd think that he would have some approval, wouldn't you?
You would
Because when like Jose singing "Light My Fire," I mean it ain't great either.
No. Who would
He
you want
doesn't-
singing your songs if you were in the same situation? Like if you could pick someone to sing your
Oh
song,
boy, that's a good question.
That is a,
No, I don't know.
We've
like
never thought
whether it
about
be
that.
friends or artists that you're just big fans of.
well, I went to an event in Toronto where the drummer from Bare Naked Ladies sang it.
He sang our song.
Sang it at a benefit for a music instrument thing for a school, and yeah, he come whenever I seen him, not that many times, but he says my comment apparently was that I'd heard worse. I don't remember saying that to him, but he said, "Oh, how was it?" And I said, "Well, I guess I heard worse."
But I was only making a joke. It was great.
That's a tough thing. But you guys, I have always said, like I've seen you guys live a couple of times at festivals, and I've always believed that's the best way to really appreciate a band like you guys is to see it live.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, we don't play with any tracks or anything, no backing tracks. What you see is what we're doing. There's only 4 of us, and we give it, and it sounds really good. It sounds pretty good for just, you're thinking, if you look in there, because a lot of bands you go and see and you hear, there's all kinds of embellishment sounds going on, and the guys are just, not when you come see the Kings, boy. When you come and you're looking at the stage, you're hearing what's coming off the stage.
And we've had a lot of lousy sound men. And when you start doing this for a while,
The guy's doing the mix out front, right? Yeah.
the guy at the front of house, FOH they call it, this front of house sound man. And it's vitally important to have somebody good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Honeymoon Suite. A few years ago, I saw them at a festival, and they sounded really good. So we've hired Dennis Mortson,
Hmm.
their sound man, a couple times because I was just sounding by the soundboard, and it sounded like a record. And I just thought, this is the kind of guy you want to get. And
Yeah.
then we played in Saskatoon a year or two ago, and
Yes, there you go.
saw April Wine playing, and they sounded fantastic. So now Jake, their sound man, is working with us. This is how you get a chance to evaluate. I
Right.
mean, you can play on stage and somebody's doing sound out front. You haven't got a clue what it sounds like. But when you see another band with, especially a rock band with
Right.
similar kind of instruments, you can really hear what they can do, and it's very important. And there's one guy. Again, we're not going to mention any names, but there's one guy that gets quite a lot of work, and we will never work with this guy again. You know,
Yeah,
and
well, I saw that at a venue here in Charlottetown. I'm not going to mention the venue, but a fairly well-established band came in one night and they brought their own sound man. But they had the option to use the guy that does the sound there all the time.
Mhm.
And it didn't sound very good because they didn't use the guy that's there all the time, who knows the building, knows the setup, like, and is there every night doing that. So I don't know if that's something to think about when you do choose a sound man or
well,
Sometimes that's good, and sometimes it isn't.
sometimes the way to do it is to bring your sound man and have the guy who runs the rig every night help him.
yeah,
Yes.
work
Help him pick the
together.
sounds, but let the guy do his mix because
The guy knows this. He knows the band, knows the songs
Right.
more than the house guy who knows the PA system, the equipment, but he
Yeah.
doesn't know the music. So
yeah,
the two of them working together is the solution for that, really. I
because
think.
you know we we usually film a lot of our show, most all of them basically with a little video camera that we have, and you can get a good idea. It's like when we were in the bars and years ago, we used to have a cassette machine set up on the soundboard,
Right.
and because back then you can use a board mix, but it's not accurate because
Right.
But it's good to hear yourself every night, and you work. It's like a rehearsal. It's like it's a learning thing when you
Yeah.
have it. Oh, I thought it sounded great. This part's all loose and shitty type of
yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
But the house guy, we did a couple shows, and we played with Honeymoon Suite actually in a few theaters around Ontario, and we couldn't really afford our own guy at that point because of the tight budget, and so we were using the house guys, and then we were
Mhm.
watching the video later, and again, it wasn't good
Right.
because yes, they know the rig, but the day before they were doing a children's choir or something, and the
Right.
next day they're doing a play. That doesn't mean they know how to mix switch and to glide,
Right.
and so
knowing the parts and that.
they know the gear, but they might not know the cues. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And this is sort of, and then the thing that we've realized with Jake, or the guy that we're trying to,
Jake Disman.
Jake Disman, yeah, and but April Weiner playing a lot, so he's very hard to get. But anyway, his mix. A lot of rock mixes are really kick drum and snare forward,
Right.
Really hear it
like they're
loud.
the loudest thing, and it's like that doesn't sound like a record,
Yeah.
What record sounds like that,
Right.
And so he has a music mix where
Right.
the vocals are up top, and then the guitars and the instruments and the drums and the bass are right where they ought to be, and it's
Makes a big difference.
makes a big difference for a band like us, and we're really happy to have met him, and he's also a cool guy too.
The other thing too, I think we've been working with these great sound guys because we're easy to get along with. Like we're one of the easiest bands to get along with.
Right.
What do you want us to do? We'll get up here and then we're gonna play, and then they're listening. I think they listen to us and they go, "These guys can actually really play. This is like we're not fooling around here. This is the
Yeah.
real deal." And I think they like that. They like that. There's no tracks to have to worry about.
Right.
They're just looking at the stage and they know what's going on.
Not mentioning any names.
Not mentioning any names. um, I want to go back. Before you joined bands, what were your influences growing up? like that got you into music in the first place? Like,
Well, like Jim Cuddy said the other night, and Greg, they were Beatle freaks,
Yeah,
right?
right,
everybody would deal with the harmonies, the melodies,
right,
the lyrics. Just, it was everything. They were just head, head and shoulders above everything else at
Yeah.
that time, and they influenced so many other bands that became huge bands
Oh
because
yeah.
of that. They changed the world, all right.
It changed the world, and I mean their early stuff. When you think that some of the first songs they ever wrote were "She Loves You" and "Please Please Me," "I Want to
right.
Hold Your Hand," and "Love Me Do."
Yeah.
Those are some of the
Saying
first
that.
songs they ever wrote.
How great they are.
I've been, he knows I've been obsessed with "Please Please Me" lately, and
Yeah.
it's one of the greatest songs ever written. I would put it, like I said, there's top three songs. The other two might vary, but I'm sticking that in there for sure.
But
It's just so,
it's also maybe the way they progressed over the years too, like the Beatles, like they went
Yeah.
from that to
Uh,
Sergeant Pepper and on, they
yeah,
really did progress as a band
Magical
musically.
Mystery Tour and all
oh,
that.
100%. But I mean, that first album was pretty freaking good.
But there
Um,
was, yeah, no, and back though in those days too, there was so many, like this is back in high school days and stuff, in early days, and there were so many places to play. There was, there was little coffee houses and places like high school dances all over the,
right.
every, it was great because you could go up there on stage and work your craft and try to see, try to learn how to do it or do it, and it was great. The good old days.
You got to do it by doing it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I
And
remember hearing that about a lot of Canadian bands back in the days, playing a lot of high schools. I remember hearing Triumph and Rush did that a
Oh
lot,
yeah,
and Max Webster and
everybody did, and
we
it's
did. We get letters from sometimes emails or comments from people. You played at my high school in Sudbury, and it's like, we did?
yeah, right.
Like,
And every university around too, we played at all the university pubs, and
yeah.
we played a lot in county fairs and everywhere.
I
yeah.
was gonna say, did you do a lot of the Northern Ontario circuit back in the day where you'd be
We
playing
didn't,
like multiple nights?
not as bad as, we always played 6 nights a week, but we didn't have to go too far up north.
Like, we didn't
Yeah,
do Cascasing or Timmins at all.
Although we did it later on a tour, we played
right.
there.
Yeah, we did it later.
But
But Sudbury, North Bay, all across there, sure, we've been up there. Sault Ste. Marie and
yeah,
Thunder Bay.
a guy I used to know used to say, "Well, you don't have to play in New Liskeard." It was like, to him, that was like the bottom of the pit,
Or Val d'Or and
So,
Have you been cross the country, Bo? You've been cross Canada at least a couple of times,
well,
I'm
we've been
sure.
out,
Yeah.
we've been west many times, more than out east or down east as they call it. And actually, we just played in Fredericton
Yeah,
last year, and that was
last winter, yeah.
we played in Halifax, so that was Nova Scotia, but we had never played in New Brunswick, so that makes, I think, 8 provinces, because we've never played in Prince Edward Island or Newfoundland.
Played
And so
Quebec.
those are the two that are missing at this point.
Well, the logistics for Newfoundland I know are difficult. I've heard from a lot of people who tour. It's not as easy to get over to Newfoundland. Prince Edward Island's not too bad now that we have the bridge. You don't have to
Yeah.
get on a
Yeah.
boat anymore. So,
Yeah.
Well, they have these things called airplanes now, too.
yeah, they work too. Let's see the album again.
Yeah,
The new.
here it
Sure,
is.
man.
It's good, too.
I'm sure. I know. I can imagine it is. But
The
what are your
dogs.
What are your plans with it now? I know you played some gigs this summer. I read you're at the Blues Festival in Kitchener this year.
Yeah, and we're
Yeah, we
playing.
just did that. It was great.
We're playing in Mexico in Cancun in a month
Oh, cool.
for
Are
this
you?
thing. It's called '80s in the Sand, and so there's Rick Springfield and us,
Oh,
and
very nice.
Yeah.
the
And
Level 42 and the Fix and Brett Michaels and
Ace Frehley.
Lou Graham from Foreigner.
Oh, wow.
We're all going to be there. It's going to be a big. We're all going to be on stage at the same time.
No, we're not. But
Is this your first time playing something like this, or?
out of the country, yeah. I mean, we played a lot of
Yeah.
festivals, but
Yeah, out of the U.S. we played U.S. quite a bit, but
yeah.
first time out of the Americas, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, do you get a chance to like chum around with some of the bands when you do stuff like that, or will you? Do you
It
know for
depends
sure?
how some people are more approachable than others, and of course, you know, some of these things, the bands are a lot bigger than us, so they don't really know who we are. I think sometimes, but that's okay. And but this is more of a it's at the Planet Hollywood Resort in
Right.
Cancun, and we're staying there 4 or 5 days or something. So we'll hang out, have fun.
Yeah, it'll be
Like
great.
like I was saying before I started going on air, if you will, I knew you guys, I saw you guys, a recording of a song when I used to volunteer at a local television station. And I was saying that I really did get a respect for the work that goes into recording music. Because I'd never seen the process before, and it was really something to see it at a studio like Metalworks too, one of the top studios in the country. Um, but now that you got the album out, are you guys planning on doing some extensive shows? Like maybe not a massive tour like you might have done 30
Well,
years
it's
ago,
so
but
different now because we're dealing as an independent band, getting gigs. We have a manager who's Joe Bamford, who's great, and he's really working hard with us. Trying
yeah,
to set up some U.S. shows next year, and then hopefully more Canadian festivals and whatever comes along. We're ready, willing, and able.
Yeah,
But it's a different world now, and a lot of these festivals, um, they'll hire tribute bands
yeah,
um, for the whole thing. Like we used to play some of these things in Ontario, and it would be us and Teenage Head and Honeymoon Suite and Gatto and some of these other local original bands.
right,
But now they'll hire the Bowie tribute, the Bob Seger
yeah,
tribute, the
try the practically hips.
Practically Hip tribute, the Eagles tribute,
right,
and
The Beagles.
and some of those bands. A friend of ours, Al Anglade, is in the Hotel California Eagles thing. He plays all over North America. They are on the road all the time,
really, yeah.
and he makes a good living at it. But I don't know what his wife thinks about it.
But
Well,
say, but some of these festivals we play, like Saskatoon last year and Kelowna before that, it's multiple Canadian bands for 3 days. It's like everybody from Trooper to like David Wilcox to
Kim,
Kim Mitchell and the
April
Stampeders.
Wine, and
So when that happens, the day you're
Chilliwack.
playing, those days backstage, it's like everybody's mixing and mingling. Everybody knows each other from so
Yeah,
many gigs you've played before. That
right.
it's pretty cool.
yeah.
They start
The Canadian
touch
bands
base.
are like that with us.
Yeah, and it's a great thing. It's fun. It makes it a lot more fun than just maybe one or two bands playing. This is like we're talking
Yeah,
like 8, 10 bands all going on. It's
yeah,
great.
Right. It's like a reunion of sorts when you play with
Yeah.
some of those Canadian bands going back that you probably toured with, or like you said, played
Oh yeah.
festivals with. And
Pretty much all of them.
yeah, because we got Glass Tiger coming out here next year.
Oh, yeah, we
Um,
just played with them at a casino here, Casino Rama in Ontario. It was great, great show with
show
them.
with them in April, and there's a video of our show
Yeah,
from that gig on our YouTube channel.
yeah,
yeah,
the YouTube.
which I will put a link to in the description of my
Yeah,
YouTube video with your interview.
Yeah,
I'll post all that kind of stuff. And
sure, man.
yeah, I like I said, I like promoting the fact that guys like yourselves are still doing it, still making new music, still writing, and I love seeing that. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't," they just want to hear the old stuff. I
Oh
don't.
yeah,
I want to hear
yeah,
new
I know.
stuff. I like
That's
hearing
good.
new stuff. I like to know that you guys are still writing and still playing and
Yeah.
still got creative juices flowing. I think it's
And,
great, and I want to hear new stuff from bands like yourselves.
and it still
Um,
sounds like us. It's us. You can really tell it's the King. So it's a great, yeah. The new album, The Longest Story Ever Told. It's great. We're very proud of it because it sort of came from a lot of hard work over the COVID years and afterwards. So it's
yeah.
good.
I can't thank you guys enough for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Like I said, it's kind of nice to see you guys again. Like I know you
Yeah.
you don't remember the song I'm talking about, but I wouldn't expect you to. It was like it's
I
going
don't
on
know.
over
Maybe the
20.
zero wasn't there. I don't know. I don't remember.
No, I
Well,
remember we interviewed you
Unless it was
guys.
pretty high.
he interviewed us. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to find, I have a tape of it somewhere of the story we did. But
Oh,
it was quite a process. It started with that, like I said, that whole thing they did at the bar in Mississauga, and
oh yeah,
That we remember,
I
right?
remember
So
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
that's the difference.
because they had everybody there that week. They had you guys, they had Five Man Electrical Band, and Jeff
Oh,
Healy was there. Mike
and I
Bullard's
went.
band was there
Yeah.
that week too, and
I
then
forget it was a marathon, right? It just kept going. It's the longest
yeah,
broadcast of music or rock and roll music in the world, or so. They're going for the
yeah, it was
Guinness
broadcast over
World
the
Book.
internet, something that
Yeah,
wasn't really being done back then. Like it's done all the
Yeah.
time now, but
yeah, it was the first time. It was great.
I forgot who it was that wrote the song. I think it was his name was Bobby Steves wrote the song.
Okay.
No, no, and
Um,
we know Mike Fonfera is no longer with us either, right?
right. But yeah, he produced it, and I
Yeah,
remember Chuck Jackson was singing on it.
That's
Patty
great.
Janetta was in on it. Alan Frew popped in. I think Michael Burgess did a vocal on
okay,
it too.
right.
But it was all done at Metalworks, and I remember because our Rogers studio was just around the corner from where Metalworks
Yeah,
was. So
Well, Gil was at the thing in Massey Hall the other night. He inducted Tom in because they're best friends.
yeah. He
right.
gave the little the trophy.
Little speech and everything, so that was cool.
No, that is
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it must be amazing to be at an event like that to see something like that because I know they did the not long ago. I was watching something about the Canada's Walk of Fame. They did a rock version of it, and they had a bunch of legendary Canadian acts put in on that, like Lee Aaron and
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, who I got to interview myself. She was really wonderful to work to talk to.
Oh,
Um,
great.
and then she came out to Moncton with Kim Mitchell, and she invited us to her show afterwards. And she was so excited to have somebody from PEI interview her. So
Oh, yeah.
she was really happy about that. So
nice.
she invited us out to her show over in Moncton. So
Oh,
um,
great.
yeah, you guys will have to get out here sometime to PEI. I think
Yeah.
there's
We'd love to.
Spread the word.
I will spread the word. Again, I can't thank you guys enough for joining me tonight. I appreciate you doing that. Good luck with the album, and
Thanks, Alan.
like I said, I hope the gig offers just start lining up, and you do get out here to PEI and eat some potatoes, have some lobster.
Another bud.
We'll
Bud to
take
spud.
we'll take you up to the Stomp and Tom Center up
Oh,
west
that'd be
there.
great.
Oh
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
a
he was great.
Bud to spud. Yeah.
I got his autograph in 1975 or something.
yeah.
Good
Well,
places.
I saw him when I was 3 year old in Peterborough, but I don't
Oh.
remember much about it. But yeah, he's one of the reasons I'm into music too. He's one of the
It's
first.
incredible,
He was amazing. Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. So
Well, anyway, Alan, thank you.
Yes.
no,
Bye,
thank you for joining me.
everybody.
I
Okay.
appreciate it. Have a good night, fellas.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Take care,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks again.
Yep.